In life, we don't always know what we want to do. I didn't always know. But in life, we find out quickly what we don't want to do. So when you look for a company, try and look at what it is you want to do. You don't have to be the boss. What is it you enjoy being around? What makes you get up and say, I can't wait to get to the office? We have people, Paul Mitchell, working at 7, 8 o'clock at night. They don't have to. One day I walked in, there was 10 of them. What are you doing here? We want to finish our projects. You don't have to. We all went out to dinner. I was like, God, because they love what they're doing. So one is, find out what you want to do.
You should always make decisions with your heart and soul. You can use your brain for math. You can use your brain to look at the fine print in a contract, but when it comes to the actual feel of the decision, you always want to go inward and check it against your heart and soul. How do you do that? Here's the simple test. Does the decision that you're about to make expand you, expand your future, or expand the possibilities of your life? If the answer is yes, then the decision is yes, no matter how terrifying it is. If you conversely look at the choice that you have to make, and the decision will shrink you, will silence you, will inhibit you in some way, then the answer is no. No matter how easy the decision is, no matter how safe the decision is, the answer is no. Now, one of the things I want to point out that when you start to use this, does it expand or does it shrink me? Does it open possibilities or does it keep things closed? Does it raise my voice or does it silence me, right? Is that there's always a short-term and a long-term impact to the decision. The short-term impact to making an expansive decision, a decision that's based in your heart and your soul, sometimes it's terrifying because sometimes it means moving or it means changing a job or changing a relationship or having a difficult conversation or starting something new. And those sorts of things are always uncomfortable. So brace for impact, put the force fields up, but make the decision anyway. Because the long-term impact of making a decision from your heart and soul, that is where the best life comes from. Because you're living for what's true for you, not what's safe in the moment.
I was working on a job. And I came home one day, I was married at the time, and I told my former wife, I said, that guy Bert I work for is stupid. She said, if he's so stupid, why does he sign you a paycheck? Now you see why I divorced her, right? I couldn't stand her. That night, I could not sleep well. Here was a guy that was controlling my life. I was going through all kinds of changes because this man controlled my paycheck. And it was Carlyle who said, truth crushed to earth shall rise again. Winston Churchill said, the truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but at the end there it is. And we know scripture that says, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And the truth that I had to come to grips with, that I wasn't in charge of my destiny. The truth was that I wasn't giving all that I had. The truth was that there are some things that I wanted to do, but I didn't have the courage to act on those things. And the truth was that Bert Childs was a blessing to me. He made life so miserable for me, I had to start looking at my life differently. I started going to work earlier. I started being the last one to leave there. I started working harder than anybody else. The other guys could not. Why would you work so hard, Les? I said, I'm not working for them. I have been cheating, Bert, I thought. I've been cheating myself and my family. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, do it with everything that you have. Develop the habit of giving more than what you're paid for. Develop the habit of setting standards that others will be measured by. Someone said, do not go where the path may lead, but go where there's no path and leave a trail.
Passion is another word for energy. That's it.
What do you have energy for?
What energizes you? And that we naturally have a tremendous amount of body wisdom about that. And that every one of us has an internal fuel tank that is either empty or full. And if you're empty, you feel depleted. If you're full, you feel energized. And so if you simply are in any situation, I mean any situation, and you pay attention within 5 seconds to, does this person energize me? Do they deplete me? Where are they in the scale? You just gain some tremendous wisdom. And the simple way to start to figure out who you are and what you want is start aligning yourself with more things that energize you. So situationally, if you're lying in bed and the snooze alarm goes, or the alarm goes off, and you feel depleted, and you start reaching for the snooze button, that's a really big sign that you need to get out of bed. Now, being depleted versus energized has nothing to do with whether or not things are hard or easy. It has to do with what naturally actually either expands you or shrinks you. And so if you look at your client list and measure it depleted versus energized, what shrinks versus expands me, you have the actual map. And when you start to find the courage to make decisions that energize you and that expand you, whether they're scary as shit or not, that's when everything changes. And so that's how I actually make business decisions. I don't even, like, the money conversation comes second. It's, does this deplete or energize me? And if it depletes me, how do you move it in that direction? Or how do I say no? If it energizes me, how do I do more? Because if you are energized or expanded by something, you will do it for no money, you will do it happily, and you will suddenly wake up and say, oh my gosh, like I'm pursuing my passion. How did that happen?
This is a time more than ever that you want to begin to inoculate yourself with positive words, coming to conventions, showing up on meetings, being on the calls, to make yourself unstoppable, to get out of your mind the polluting negative thoughts that's causing most people to go through life being stuck because they're volunteer victims. Somebody said that many people die at age 25 and don't get buried until they're 65 because they got so much garbage in their minds. You are here because you've got a clear vision of what you want and where you're going. Give yourselves a round of applause. Come on, bring your energy level up. Yes, yes. You want more. You want more. You're different. You're different than everybody else. Don't worry if they don't get it. Don't try and convince people to do this business. A person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. You are not like everybody else. You can walk outside and find pigeons, but if you're looking for eagles, it's going to take you a minute. You are different. It's lonely at the top. How many of you know it's lonely at the top? Raise your hands. It's lonely at the top, but you eat better. That's what I'm talking about. You're different. One great entrepreneur said, I choose not to be a common man. It's my right to be uncommon if I can. I seek opportunity, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to live from hand to mouth. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the still calm of utopia. I will never cower before any master, nor bend to any threat. It's my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to face the world boldly and say, this I have done. You showed up because you're building a business that you can stand and say, I did this. I did this. This is my dream. Give yourselves a round of applause. Yes, 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 yes.
The majority of people wait for the masses to do something. When the masses do something, they join in and they join on board. But they forget that the masses are made up of individuals. Those individuals, each in his own, is extremely powerful. If they realize how powerful they are, if you realize how powerful you are, and what you could do to make a huge difference that affects everybody around you. If you knew your power and what you could achieve, we wouldn't be outsourcing jobs, as the politicians say, to overseas countries. We'd be more than adequate to do it ourselves here because we'd be 2, 3, 4 times more efficient. It's all about imagining and doing, believing in yourself.
I spoke at an education summit for Microsoft. I also spoke at an education summit for Apple. At the education summit for Microsoft, I would say that 70% of the executives spent about 70% of their presentations talking about how to beat Apple. At the Apple Education Summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. One is playing this way, and one is playing that way. One is playing finite, and the other one is playing infinite. Guess which one gets frustrated. So at the end of my talk at Microsoft, they gave me a gift. They gave me the new Zune when it was a thing. And let me tell you, this thing was spectacular. It was the most elegant piece of technology I'd ever used. The user interface was incredible. The design was spectacular. I absolutely loved it. It was easy to use, and it was bright and gorgeous and fantastic. It didn't work on iTunes, which is a different problem, so I couldn't use it, but it was amazing. And elegant. My God, it was elegant. So I'm sitting in the back of a taxi with a very senior Apple executive, sort of employee number 12 kind of guy. And, you know, I like to stir pots. So I turned to him, I said, you know, Microsoft gave me their new Zune, and it is so much better than your iPod Touch. And he turned to me and he said, I have no doubt. Conversation over. Because the infinite player understands sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. Sometimes your product is better and sometimes it's worse. The goal isn't to be the best every day. The goal isn't to outdo your competition every day. That's a finite construction. If I had said to Microsoft, I've got the new iPod Touch and it's so much better than your Zune, they would have said, can we see it? What does it do? React, 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 react. Finite players play to beat the people around them. Infinite players play to be better than themselves. To wake up every single day and say, how can we make our company a better version of itself today than it was yesterday? How can we create a product this week that's better than the product we created last week? We also have to play the infinite game. It's not about being ranked number 1. It's not about having more followers on Twitter than your friends. It's not about outdoing anyone. It's about how to outdo yourself. It's not about selling more books or getting more TED views than somebody else. It's about how to make sure that the work that you're producing is better than the work you produced before. You are your competition. And that is what ensures you stay in the game the longest. And that is what ensures you find joy.
You stare at your past and you'll end up staying there. It's okay to look back and admire it, but you carry on. I'm not in the business of staring back at it. You know what I mean? And getting lost back there. People say a loss can make or break a fighter, but trust me, a win can also make or break a fighter because they get comfortable with a win. People can get comfortable with a win, and slack off then. Slack off on the training. Slack off on the diet. They've won one. They're winners now. That's not me. You know, you sleep on a win and you'll wake up with a loss. So I just carry on, keep doing what I'm doing. And that's why this turnaround is so good for me. Vegas, straight away. The Fighting Irish head to the fighting capital. It's perfect. Continue on this path, the freight train straight to the top.
All great stuff, especially when you're innovating, doesn't happen right away. Mm-hmm. This notion that like, oh Gary, I tried it, I spent $500 on Facebook ads, it doesn't work. Well, what if your video sucked? What if your product and service sucks? I tend to do things that are very early. That has been my career. Mm-hmm. When I do things, I believe in them. I stick with them based on intuition. Even though for 18 months nobody watched my wine videos at all, I knew it was right, I was right. There's been things I've done that I've jumped off of very quickly. I started a Gary V app, VChat, V-E-E, like WeChat, I thought it was funny, for my fans, great CRM one-on-one. Didn't feel right after a week or two, spent plenty of money building it, stopped it after, a couple months. Wine Library TV, 5 years, every day, YouTube. Decided to change it to Daily Grape, insular app. You could buy stuff, subscription for reviews. It was a lot of fun. Only did it for 5 months, stopped it because it didn't feel right anymore.
Okay.
It's always hard to know when to jump off something new. But I find that people don't believe in what they're doing. They hear a guru and they do it begrudgingly because their boss wants them to, or they're like, well, Gary's right a lot, so let me do it, but they don't believe it. And so then they're looking for no's instead of yeses. Everything I do, every business development, every event I do, every time I try a new marketing tactic or sales tactic, I'm looking for the yes.
Right.
I'm looking for the yes, and if the no punches me, well then I'm like, crap, the no punched me. I believe the majority of people when they try new tactics are looking for the no, and you're gonna getting a lot of subtle no's immediately.
Right.
And so I think that's why that happens.
Our rewards in life will always match our service. It's another way of saying, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. And it's been written in many ways, in every language on earth. I like to think of this law in the form of a giant apothecary scale. One of the bowls is marked service, and the other is marked rewards. Now, whatever we put into the bowl marked service, the world will match in the bowl marked rewards. If any person alive is discontented with his rewards, he should examine his service. Action, reaction. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. What you put in will determine what you must get back in return. So simple, so basic, so true, and yet so misunderstood. If a business is not expanding to the quick and exciting tempo of the times, it must examine its contribution, its service. If a person is unhappy with his income, he must examine and reevaluate his service. Never before in the history of the world have human beings been so interdependent. It's as impossible to live without serving others as it would be to live if others were not constantly serving us. In thinking of ways of increasing your service, read books on your specialty. Read what others have found to work well for them. But at the same time, think of original and creative ways of increasing your service, ways that are unique with you and the way you are. Each morning and during the day, ask yourself this question: how can I increase my service today? Knowing that my rewards in life must be in exact proportion to my service. Now do this every day and you will have started to form one of life's most valuable habits. Horace Mann wrote, "If any man seeks for greatness, let him forget greatness and ask for truth, and he'll find both." You see, you can cut away all the confusion and complications and nagging worries and vague, half-formed fears by returning to the great truth, the great laws, the great verities on which all success, all accomplishment, the whole world is built. If you're worried about your income or your future, you're concentrating on the wrong end of the scale. Look at the other end. Concern yourself only with increasing your service, with becoming great where you are, and your income and your future will take care of themselves.
Working in the plumbing business?
I was working in the plumbing business at the time, yeah, but I'm trying to think. It would have been around that time that John, see, I'd left the plumbing business. I left the plumbing business.
How bad was that?
The plumbing?
Yeah.
Horrendous.
Were you actually in the trenches?
I mean, it was an industrial.
Ooh.
So it'd be like building this. It'd be like the plumbing that would be needed in a place like this, 6 o'clock in the morning, and the motorway. And I used to have to walk for about an hour to get to the motorway, and then I'd stand on the edge of the motorway and wait for a bloke to drive by. So he'd give me a lift, and then the motorway was like getting renovation at the time, so it'd take me 2.5 hours to get to the place. It was out in the country. Then I'd be there for 10 hours walking, and I was a first year, so I was the worst of the worst, you know what I mean? It was only beginning. Then 2 hours to get back in the traffic again. It was just a horrible, horrible time, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this, and then I just left, and then I just stopped going, didn't get out of bed. Then my dad would come in and try and bait me out of bed, and we'd have fights, and literally for a good while I never spoke. I didn't really speak to my dad. We just kind of stayed away from each other. Anytime I'd come across my dad, anytime we did speak was to fight.
You lived in his house?
Yeah, I was only 18, 17, 18.
But you didn't talk to him? Isn't that kind of awkward?
Yeah, well, not like it wasn't whatever, you know.
You didn't have just a deep relationship?
But since this has happened,
right.
Since the dream has happened, since the vision that I had has come true, and like he went through a tough time as well because he got testicular cancer.
Oh.
So he got sick and all over, and in my head I was thinking maybe I done that because he's worried about me and doesn't know what I'm gonna do, and all these fights that we're having all the time, and like I'm talking full on fights. You come in and punch it. We're going at it. Yeah, we're going at it.
You're punching back?
Well, yeah, we're going at it. Yeah.
Wow. What does your mom say about that? Who's so protective of you?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. She just stayed out, you know. But since,
why did it get to that point, to where he was that mad?
Because I was doing absolutely nothing. I was out getting into trouble. Yeah, basically felt like I was doing fuck all. I was a waster. You know, I was a waster. Got called that a lot. You know what I mean? But now, like, and then when I start getting that focus and realize, no, I'm gonna make this happen. And then now that has happened, I'm making it happen. I have a great relationship with my dad. Like, we talk all the time, and I even see energy in him, and I see energy in me, man. Like, it's depressing times for a lot of people in Ireland. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in the country. A lot of people are struggling. Everybody's struggling. But now, since them seeing me chase this dream, it's given them an energy, and I see a new lease of life in them, and that alone spurs me on even more. So it's all just a perfect storm that's happening for me, and that is why I have this tunnel vision, and that is why I'm willing to kill every single man in my path to get that belt. You know what I mean? To secure the future, from my family's future. You know what I mean? That's what I'm doing it for. It's hard to say, but when I was a kid, I used to always visualize stadiums and like, even when I was playing football, I'd kick the ball against the wall and I'd pretend that I scored a goal, and I'd run off and I'd be raising my hand and visualizing a arena full of fans. And that was something I'd done as a kid out on my own. I like just running around kicking the ball. So I always had these visions of something, but I just didn't know what it was. And then I suppose when I came to these events and I started training MMA and then came to an event, it was like, okay, this is it.
Anything you want good, you can have. So claim it. Work hard to get it. When you get it, reach back. Pull someone else up. Each one, teach one. Don't just aspire to make a living. Aspire to make a difference.
Went into pursuing different passions with eyes wide open, meaning knowing because my focus was split, I probably wouldn't be getting very far in any of them, but I made a conscious choice that I just wanted to experience them. I wanted to understand them from the inside out. I spent so much time thinking in my mind, is this the right choice for me? Is this the right career for me? Should I try and build a business around this? And I said, that's such a dumb way to go around it. Like, you should just engage and experience and actually get your foot in the industry. That can inform whether or not you should move ahead.
About someone who's stuck or struggling, what would you tell them?
Stuck or struggling is typically someone who is more engaged in their thoughts than actually taking action. So it's a really interesting, subtle shift, but if you catch yourself complaining like, oh, I'm so stuck, and stop.
Yeah.
Write an email, make a call, take a step. And the more you actually do that and catch yourself, we actually, sorry, this is me, ADD, my toes are exactly that color.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love it.
Bing! But it's really a practice of checking in with yourself. You gotta check yourself before you wreck yourself. Like, stop complaining, stop talking to yourself in your head, and do something.
You cannot lose by taking action. You can only lose by not taking action. I think the great majority of people surrounded by the greatest opportunities in the best country in the history of man on earth who don't succeed are people who are on the island. You've always got a reason for not taking action. And if you delay taking action repeatedly over and over again, you develop the habit of never taking action. You get to develop the habit of procrastinating and holding back and so on.
Strange as change can be, there were times when it was hard to imagine that my life would be what it is today. Especially the time when my son and I were living in that bathroom. Maybe you remember that scene in the movie. There was a highly polished sheet metal piece over a sink. It wasn't a mirror, but it served as a mirror. And I had to wash myself in that baby every day, wash my baby in that sink, and I had to ask myself some very predictable questions. What happened? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? But the most difficult question I had to get through was, how did I get here? And the answer was even more brutal. The answer was, I drove here. I had something to do with it. You can't change something until you own it. So if you're 50 plus and you're sitting out there and pointing fingers at other people, you can do that for a long time. But it's hard to look in the mirror and say, how did I get here? And have the answer be, I drove here. I had something to do with it. It's uncomfortable to admit that, well, I made some bad decisions. I made some investments I shouldn't have made. I had something to do with it. When that man sold me that house for no money down, I should have told him what he could do with that house. Huh? When I signed that adjustable rate mortgage, we all know these things only adjust upwards. No one's ever going to call you and say, guess what? You're going to pay less for your money in your house next year. Ain't going to happen. So the idea of I drove here is empowering, because the other side of it is, if I drove here, that means I can drive out of here. I have to own it. And that bathroom, I finally had to understand what my mama used to say to me, when she would say, boy, the cavalry is not coming. Ain't no backup. I was 28 years old when that part of my life happened. Change was coming fast. And you know what? Change is everywhere, all the time. Social change, technological change, and the most potent of all, personal change. The most urgent question today is not so much as what are my values and who are we? The urgent question in these times of constant change is, how exactly are you going to navigate these new realities? Put another way, what are you going to do?
Never give up. Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. It's not easy. If it was easy, there'd be no Kerry Washington. If it was easy, there'd be no Taraji Henson, Pete Henson. If it were easy, there'd be no Octavia Spencer. But not only that, if it were easy, there'd be no Viola Davis. If it were easy, there'd be no Michael T. Williamson, no Stephen McKinley Henderson, no Russell Hornsby. If it were easy, there'd be no Denzel Washington. So, keep working, keep striving, never give up, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship.
A lot of you feel stuck because you're waiting for some kind of external force to either push you and pressure you to change and to be great and to be amazing, or you're waiting for somebody to give you permission. You're either sitting back because you need some sort of external motivation from somebody that's going to push you or praise you or pressure you in order to change, or some life circumstance, like maybe in your past you've experienced trauma or you faced something really scary and that was the thing that made you change. And then the second thing that people wait around for is permission. Look, those may or may not come in your life. If you are somebody that is sitting around waiting for some external force to come and do the work for you, that is such a losing bet, it's unbelievable. Maybe you'll get lucky, maybe somebody will come, but more than likely, no one is coming. The only kind of force that will truly create change in your life is you. The internal kind of force. I hate to say it, but for those of you that feel really, really stuck, and you keep thinking that somebody's got to pick me, or somebody's going to discover me, or somebody's got to give me permission to write this book, it's ridiculous. This is external versus internal force. And what you have to figure out if you're stuck is, are you the kind of person that is guilty of needing, wanting, and waiting for external forces, people, an event, some outside force to kick you in the ass so that you'll finally do the stuff that you've been dreaming about doing. I want to tell you something. No one's coming. No one. The people in life that get what they want are the ones that aren't waiting for an external force to validate their dreams, to inspire them, to give them permission. It's the people that realize that success, that happiness, that control, it comes from the internal force. And what is the internal force? It's you. It's you. It's you being able to realize that no one's going to do the work for you. It's you realizing that you're never going to feel ready. In fact, even as you start working toward the things that you really want to do, you're definitely not going to feel ready. And you're going to feel outside your comfort zone. And that's normal. When you start to feel like you're stretching yourself and you're sticking your scrawny neck out there and you're taking some risks, that's amazing because you're growing.
In order to be successful, you must have one big goal. I give a goal-setting exercise all over the world that is life-changing. I go back a year later, or 2 years later, or 3 years later, and I have thousands of people come up to me, almost like a guru or a sage, and they say, "You changed my life, you made me rich." And I said, "It was the goals, wasn't it?" And they said, "Yes, it was the goals. How did you know?" And what I teach is this, is take a piece of paper, make a list of 10 goals that you'd like to achieve in the next 12 months. These are one-year goals. Now, sometimes I'll have a 1 day, a 1 week, a 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, but they're all goals that you want to accomplish within 12 months. Then you look over this list and you say, if I could wave a magic wand and achieve any one goal on this list within 24 hours, which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on my life? And then you look at your list of 10 and the answer will jump out at you. And that becomes your major definite purpose. This becomes your major goal. Then you transfer this to a clean sheet of paper and you write a deadline when you want to achieve this goal. You make a list of everything that you could think of that you could do to achieve this goal. You then organize this list like a checklist in order of sequence. What do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third? And then you take action on your goal, and then you do something on that goal every day, 7 days a week. It's a very simple system. Decide the most important goal, write it down, make a plan, work on it every day. And then all of your other goals will start to move forward. You'll start to make progress on the big goal, but all the other goals will start to move forward almost without you even paying attention to them. So that's really the key to success, is single focus. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates were at a dinner party with Bill Gates' father and a large number of other people at Bill Gates' home in Seattle last year. And they were chatting with each other, they're very good friends, and somebody came up to them and said, "Excuse me, gentlemen, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're three of the most important, most successful people in the world. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are number one, number two wealthiest men in the world. What would you say is the most important ingredient for success?" And they all stopped and broke off their conversation and all turned simultaneously and looked at the man and said, "Focus. Focus is the most important quality for success. If you can focus, you can do anything. If you can't focus, you must always work for someone else who will make you focus." Now, wonderfully enough, focusing is like learning how to ride a bicycle or type with a keyboard. It's a learnable skill. You can learn to focus by practicing focus until it becomes automatic. One of my favorite quotes is from Goethe, the German philosopher, and he said, "Everything is hard before it's easy." So the formation of any new habit is hard before it's easy. You have to keep working at it. It's just like a bicycle. You keep falling down. You have to keep getting back up again until finally it becomes easier and easier, and soon it becomes automatic. And when you automatically get up each day, plan your day, and work on your most important goal, your whole life will transform.